Another Sunday, another case of the Scaries to start your work week. Welcome to the newest edition of the Sunday Scaries, where we have all your gore, lore, and more, covering all the latest horror happenings, slicing open all the latest horror news, and dissecting it bit by bit, finding all those juicy innards. Pour that cup of coffee and turn on your fright lights while we take you on a tour of terror. And Dylan, we're still riding that high, so to speak, of seeing Cocaine Bear on Thursday nights. Our review is up on the channel, and I mean, we talked about it. I think I made a joke where I'm trying to be at least a little bit negative on some of these films, but we've just had a streak here of a lot of these films have been more so impressing us than not.
Yeah, I mean, like we'll get there. I mean, I know there's a couple
Oh
in
yeah,
the wings that are coming up soon. I mean, we even have one
if
later
it's
this
Evil
week
Dead, I'll
that's
be pissed.
I'd be so heartbroken. It would be like Halloween Ends, but even then we had our reservations. But I know we got something that I totally forgot to mention is even this week. I thought we didn't have any new releases, but doesn't Children of the Corn come on Shutter this week on the
Oh, does it?
3rd? Yeah, so
Oh, that's
that
sneaking up
could
on
be
me.
the one to break our streak, really. And I mean, people are going to say, "Oh, really? You guys are going to count Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey?" And it's like, we went in there knowing the expectations it's set.
Yep.
Is it a great movie? No, but it is one of those ones where it's like, hey, we had fun. But I'm kind of saying that's the mulligan so far that I would
Hmm.
throw on that is just like it's kind of on the outskirts. It's not really your typical full theatrical release film in my opinion, where it's like something like a Cocaine Bear or like a Megan or something where, yeah, we've had a really great run coming into 2023. We've had a lot of great films. Even the ones that I would say are lesser are still at a higher quality.
Yeah, I know because even us kind of planning over what 2023 was going to look like for us, I think we even kind of wrote off January and February more so as, nah, we're just prepping and we can kind of, focus on our own things. And then it was like one after the other, and it's like, yeah, Blood and Honey, it, by no means a film that I'm going to be remembering, by the end of the year as one of the greatest horror films of 2023. But it was something where, yeah, that bar was set pretty low, so it was like the quality impressed me. So, and Cocaine Bear, I'll say, was too much fun. It's
Hmm.
sitting here on a Sunday morning, reflecting on Thursday night. I definitely need to see this film again. It's like I don't think I'm going to make it out to the theater, but I cannot wait for the physical release of this film. But we also did get a little notification of something else being released for Cocaine Bear, which was pleasing to both of us, being action figure collectors.
Oh yes, and not necessarily an action figure like I'd love for a Cocaine Bear NECA, but that's probably going to take a
Maybe down the
long time
line.
to get here. But no, you can always rely on a Funko. And yeah, we're talking about the Cocaine Bear Funko Pops. Don't worry if you're clicking on the story and you're like, are they really wasting a slot on a Funko Pop story? It's our store. It's our show number one, so we're going to talk about what we want to talk about. But
Exactly.
yeah, it's just a little blurb here. So but yeah, you brought these to my attention before we started filming, and I got out of the Funko game long ago, and my wife will not be happy when she sees these either show up in the Amazon, you know, wish list or when I just come back from the store with them. But how could I not get these Funko Pops? Like these are absolutely fantastic. I only have about 4 of them left out of my broad collection that I used to have, all horror related, and I could just throw these right on the shelf next to them.
Yeah, and the Funko Pops, they had their time in the sun, I believe. I haven't really been into them for a very long time, but you get those odds and ends when Leprechaun gets released, you gotta buy Leprechaun. When Cocaine Bear gets released, you gotta buy Cocaine Bear. And it's like I think they have two great little models there, with the leg and then with the bag and the Coke. It's just a lot of fun. I think this it really shows a great example of how fun this film is. And as soon as these dropped online, it's like, oh my gosh, these are must-haves for the collection.
Absolutely. And then to quickly follow this up, you brought it to my attention. Um, I don't know if we mentioned it before, or I know I mentioned it to you. I feel like we brought it up somewhere along this entire conversation piece. But yeah, Cinemark had these really cool popcorn tubs for Scream, and everybody and their mother wanted one, and they sold out. We had one theater in our area that got them, and yeah, it was, you're literally unable to get them. But Cinemark has come back. They saw what kind of a popular demand that these tubs were at, all the ravenous horror fans, and they are putting them back up for pre-order so that if you want one, you can get one. And I do want one. I have a Cinemark movie reward, so I want to see if I get my discount on it, which I don't see why you wouldn't. But yeah, I will definitely probably just pick one up just because of the just the novelty of it. They do this a lot. Cinemark does with these popcorn tubs. They had a really cool light up one for Black Panther, but they wanted like $35 for it, which is just way too ridiculous for me. This is 20, but like I said, if I get that 25% off, then it's quite reasonable for me. The only thing that kind of sucks is like normally when you do buy it at the theater, you get the popcorn with it. You're not getting any popcorn with this, and I doubt they'll give you a free tub just from walking in there with it.
There better
But
be a
this is
voucher.
cool. Like, yeah, this is great. Oh, that'd be sweet. Yeah, just throw a voucher in there.
Yep.
But this is cool. At least they're listening and they understand that people really wanted these. People really responded to this stuff. And yeah, I gotta say, having a little ghost face like this in the background would be quite enjoyable for me. I would like this a lot.
Absolutely. It's like, you have your Marvel fans, and I think that's a whole different fan base. But when you get into the horror realm, I think, those fans are extra rabid for this kind of memorabilia. And just being able to say, oh, I went to the theater at the time, saw Scream 6, and then I also have the tub, even though, you're ordering them online. It's still that memorabilia for when the actual film itself came out. So, this it's a must-have. I'm not gonna be able to help myself. So I'm gonna have to pick this up. I would love to see this kind of as a thing. Like if we would have had a Michael Myers one, no matter the quality of those films, I would have loved to own one. So it's like my dream would be if they can release all the iconic horror characters like that, and then we can just have a nice lineup. It would be perfect. But right now, I think Ghostface is a great start, and I'm glad that Cinemark is actually making this available to the fans that want it, so they don't have to go to eBay and pay crazy scalper prices, just for a little popcorn tub.
Absolutely. And, I just noticed on here that it does say that they'll be starting to ship out in August. So, yeah, you got quite a bit to wait for them, but I still think that they would be a lot of fun. I am taking a look right now via my thing here because I got the little notification. What does this say? Collectible popcorn tub available. Da, 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 da. So it's something about free, but I think it's just I get the access to it. But yeah, no, I'm gonna go on here. I'm gonna definitely order one for sure, just to have. I think it's a nice little piece, and yeah, I mean, hopefully Scream 6 comes out. We've only got like what, a week between when this is airing. Like, yeah, after it'll
Yeah,
be next week is all
coming
the
up
Scream
quick.
hype. So it's one of those things where it's like it's coming right around the corner, and hopefully it's a banger. And then I got this little nice piece of memorabilia to commemorate hopefully another great Scream film to be on the horizon. But
Time will tell.
alrighty. Well, why don't we hop into our first actual story of the day here, where we're talking Hellboy, the Crooked Man aims to be rated R folk horror movie. Yeah, so this was kind of a surprise at the beginning of the week here. We got this announcement that they are going forward with another Hellboy film. It is live action. It's going to be directed by Brian Taylor, the guy who did Mom and Dad, Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, all that stuff. So he's definitely, I believe this is the it doesn't he usually team up with somebody? I don't remember. Or no, this is the Crank guys. I was thinking of the guys who did like Drive Angry and My Bloody Valentine.
Oh,
This is
that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, but no, this is interesting. A little bit horror adjacent into the superhero stuff. Um, yeah, I don't know, man. The last iteration of Hellboy that we had was with David Harbour, and
Hmm.
I saw that. Did you see it?
No. It
No.
did not interest me. You know, it was one of those things where if it had good reviews, I was probably gonna check it out, but
Hmm.
um following Guillermo del Toro is a tough task. So it was just like, David Harbour, I was like, it could be intriguing. I'm a fan of his. Um, I'll see what he does if I hear good reviews, but I never got around to checking that one out, and it just kind of got trashed pretty good. So I never really committed to it.
Yeah, I mean that's fair. It's I saw it. It was okay. I really don't think it was as bad as people are saying. It sucks. I mean, it's Neil Marshall, and I feel like the guy just hasn't really had a hit since like The Descent.
Yeah,
So it's one of those things where it's like I'd really love to see him get back up on that horse. We talked about The Lair a few months ago on here, and we were excited for that, but then the release kind of got botched with them just putting it out there, and then it was months and months to wait before we got an opportunity to watch it. It's
yeah.
out there. I can watch it on a lot of streaming services. I just
I
haven't done it.
I
The
haven't heard
interest has
great things.
died.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I have also heard not great things, but I'll throw it on at some point. But yeah, I don't know, man. This is interesting. Now, I didn't I don't know. Did you read into this a little more than I did? Because it's they got a little bit of a lengthy thing here. They have a more of an interview with Collider on here that they cite. I don't think that they've mentioned. I know it says no word yet will be following on the wake of Ron Perlman or David Harbour as the Red Right-Handed Hellboy.
No, I
So
think I had seen them mentioning that it seemed like someone else was going to be taking over. I think those ideas are always going to be out there. If we could get Ron, and if we can get Ron Perlman back, hey, I'm 100% on board with that. But I don't know if it's necessarily realistic at this juncture, especially if we're going to go, oh, well, we're going to do like a reboot, and that's how we're going to market this. I can see this being a completely different thing. I think more so what intrigues me is, they're mentioning folk horror. They're mentioning. I think this is what supposed to be in the 1950s, if I can read that correctly. It's supposed to be, taking place a little farther back. So I do like those ideas. I'm hoping this is maybe told on a slightly smaller scale. I mean, like you look at those original Hellboys. I think those for me are perfection. It's just
they are great films. I remember seeing The Golden Army in theater, and I wasn't like the biggest Hellboy kid, but like my dad and I went and saw that when we were on vacation, and that was one of those movies that just surprised me that year. Was that the same year as The Dark Knight? Was that 2008?
I
I don't
think
know.
I
I'd
think
have
it
to see.
I think it was, but I don't know. Yeah, I don't know 100% either.
If that's the case, that was just a great summer through and through because yeah, I love the Golden Army. I think I like the Golden Army more than the first one, but I mean they're both great movies, and it's such a
Yeah,
shame we've never gotten the final piece to that trilogy.
I know. And it's like, you're always holding out hope. I know we talked about Swamp Thing a few weeks ago, and that was my big inspiration there. We're just looking at Hellboy, and I never read the comics. It's something that I do want to dive into. But you have a lot of dark horse characters out there that, especially when you want to mix that kind of superhero genre with the horror realm. That's basically what a lot of their characters are. So it's like Hellboy kind of being catapulted back up into the conversation of, oh, we're going to start doing something here. I'm intrigued for it. I don't know necessarily if, the talent attached to it thus far has me, has the hairs on the back of my neck standing up saying, I cannot wait to see this film. I think the little synopsis they do give us seems intriguing, seems different. I don't think you can help but go to like Werewolf by Night, and hopefully maybe we get something of that feeling when we're kind of going back a little farther. So I'm intrigued to see what they're going to do here. I hope they do tell it on a smaller scale, bring in some more horror elements as well. And you got to have great effects here. So
Mhm.
you really got to hold up that end of the bargain when you're talking about Hellboy. But this is something where I want Hellboy back in the conversation in terms of, uh, I guess you would say superhero, that superhero aspect, especially with Swamp Thing, that anticipating coming out here in the next few years. So I hope Hellboy gets that traction. And we get something new and unique, especially if it's a different director each time, kind of telling these small Hellboy stories. But yeah, Hellboy is something I do want to dive into, at least the comics, just to kind of get my feet wet and see all the potential. Because a lot of the things I read it slightly into the Crooked Man seems pretty interesting, can be very dark if that's the route they want to go. So overall, we'll have to wait and see. I'm glad that we're talking about Hellboy again, and we're gonna be doing something with this property because the backstories that are here, being H.P. Lovecraft fans, I think it's absolutely rich to kind of really bring out these characters back onto the big screen.
Yeah, and I'd love to see a win for Hellboy. I would. But again, it is just so hard to really come back with that iconic duo that we had in the early 2000s with Del Toro and Perlman. Although I gotta say, I thought that David Harbour was great. I thought that his performance was great. I mean, he's so charismatic. He is one of those actors that I think pulled it off. He just needed to be in a better movie. So it'd be cool if he got a second chance here and they were able to pull this off, because it is an interesting concept. Kind of taking us back to the 1950s. I think that maybe we could see something great here, but I'm gonna have to wait and see more from it. And the
Yep.
casting's gonna be a huge thing, and just the overall tone, and just kind of what kind of a budget they have behind this thing. Because
Yeah, and I think it's
I
supposed
feel
to
like to
start.
execute this, you gotta have a little bit of money.
And I think I thought I read that production starts like in 2 months or something like that. So I mean,
Mm.
they have a really short span of announcing everything and then get the ball rolling. So I'm intrigued to see what the next few months hold for Hellboy.
Oh yeah, so I assume we'll probably be getting this thing next year. So we'll just have to wait and see. But moving on to our next story here, we're talking about a filmmaker we both quite enjoy their works. Uh, Poor Things, new Yorgos Lanthimos movie, rated R for disturbing material and graphic nudity. Yeah, so we're big Yorgos fans. I love The Favorite. That was one of my favorite movies of that year. Killing of a Sacred Deer is just a brilliant. I love that movie. But I all-time favorite from him, and to be honest, I own it. I have not seen Dogtooth yet, but I do own it. But man, The Lobster will always probably reign supreme for me. I will never forget that theatrical experience.
Yeah, I think we're in the same camp of seeing the same Yorgos Lanthimos films because I haven't seen Dogtooth either. I know that one is streaming for free on quite a bit
Mhm.
streaming services. I just never fully committed to the film. It's always been on my list of things to check off. I just haven't gotten there yet. But yeah, all three of the films that I've seen of his are just perfection. They've every time I see those films, they're one of the highlights of the year.
Mhm.
Uh, the killing of a sacred deer for me, for me, you don't get any better. Like the tone, the performances, I just absolutely love that film. So it's like when we're diving into uh, poor things here, and it's like for me, you got to live up to that bar. So I'm intrigued really to see what he's going to do with this rated R, especially when we're saying disturbing material. I did read a little bit of what the kind of synopsis is
Oh
of
yeah, it's
everything,
interesting, isn't
and
it?
it is very it doesn't surprise me that Yorgos Lanthimos is going to be telling this story. So, this is one that absolutely I cannot wait to see in the theater. This is something that I would love to see, like at the Nightlight, our local art house theater. I think that would really, set that tone. I know seeing The Favorite
That's where
was,
I saw Killing of a Sacred Deer. Actually, was the Nightlight. So
and
perfect setting for it. I was the only one in the theater.
I, and us trying to find The Favorite around town was a task in itself. So I'm hoping that this one is going to be playing in a few places. But I'm excited to see this one, see what kind of performances we're gonna get. I mean, the cast already seems pretty intriguing. I think is Willem Dafoe attached to this one as well?
I don't know. I know it's got quite a cast, but I mean, coming off of The Favorite and everything that film had, it is not a surprise if he is, considering it's like he does like to bounce around to some of these,
I thought one
auteur,
article mentioned
uh,
him.
yeah, like he's Yorgos is up there with like Robert Eggers
Yes.
and Ari Aster, all these guys right now is like names that you watch out for. I can actually pull up the cast here while we're talking about it. But yeah, I gotta say there's gonna be some regulars here. Oh yeah, Emma Stone is in this, Willem Dafoe, Mark Ruffalo, Christopher Abbott, who was in Possessor, which we just checked out.
Yes.
Yeah, so there's a ton of people in this. A lot of familiar little character actor faces. Definitely some people that he's been in before. And yeah, of course we have Marguerite Qualley. She was in. She played Pussycat in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. If you remember her.
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah. Yep.
Yeah, she's great. My wife was watching a show called The Maid. Really sad shit, honestly, like horribly sad show. But she gives a great performance. I caught like the last 6 episodes of that just because, like, I don't know, I just have this demon in me that I just hijack my wife's shows when she's watching shit. Like I'll just start watching it and then I'll be like, "Hey, don't watch the next episode without me." And she hates it, but she'll do it with me because
And
she
she's
loves me.
just
So
sitting there waiting for you to be available to watch her shows.
I
You're
know
horrible, Dylan.
I
Um,
am I'm really bad about it, but I'm an easy sell. Like honestly, like since we have the baby and everything, like we got to be just kind of in his presence and all that. But like
oh yeah.
when we watch this, he was still very young, so it's just like we're just sitting there anyway, holding him and coddling him and stuff. So it's like just watching what's on. But either way, back on topic. Great actress, fantastic cast. Yorgos, my ticket is already sold. I will be there day one.
Yeah, and just like seeing the synopsis for this and in my love for The Killing of a Sacred Deer, I think we're really going to get that kind of offbeat kind of storytelling that he loves to tell here. Plus, this I believe is a period piece, so we'll probably get that mixture of The Favorite, which for me sometimes period pieces are a hard sell, but something like The Favorite I was absolutely just enthralled with. So kind of a mixture of some of these films that he's already brought to the screen. So this makes me extra excited for The Poor Things because I think this is, I feel like Yorgos has never had a bad film, so it's like in each different film that he brings, he's always has a slightly different tone and wants to tell us something different. So I'm curious to see what he's going to bring to us with Poor Things. I'm glad that, we're going to be leaning into the disturbing material, as horrible as that sounds, but hey, we're a horror podcast. So I'm really intrigued to see what he's going to bring here. I think it's going to be a lot of fun in a
Oh,
certain
I
sense anyway.
completely agree. And I gotta say, before we move on to the next story here, Willem Dafoe, man, like with this and Nosferatu coming up, like I mean, he's always in great movies year to year, but like he is in the pocket of some very talented filmmakers right now. And like he's gonna have a bang up year if he doesn't win an Oscar for like even just for supporting for one of these films. Like I can already tell you, even if it's just a small role, like he should have won one for The Lighthouse a few years back, or
Yeah.
even a movie we didn't actually love, but The Florida Project. His performance
Yeah.
is great in that.
Mm.
Uh, it's insane that he didn't win anything for that. So
His role as the Green Goblin must have had a profound effect on up and coming filmmakers at that time. So now they're all just casting him in certain things.
dude, it had a profound effect on there's a couple years between us, but like people my age, to the mid 20s, they are literally like he is a household name. Like there is
Hmm.
nobody my age who doesn't know Willem Dafoe because of those movies, but they've gone on to follow his career and follow the stuff that he's done before. It's like you mentioned Willem Dafoe, it's one of those names that's just gonna like always stick out to people. So
Can't beat him.
he's a legend, an absolute legend. But we are going to move on to our next story here, which is a fun one. Definitely something we're looking forward to seeing. I know Luke is probably very much anticipating this, but yes, the documentary Living with Chucky just dropped a trailer this week, and yeah, it is coming to Screambox very soon here. I didn't actually catch the date. Did you catch it?
It's
April
right there.
4th.
Yep, there we
Yep,
go.
April 4th. So we don't have too long to wait here. But yeah, this looks super duper interesting. Screenbox is always killing it with these documentaries. We talked about Pennywise, the story of
Yes.
it last year, which was one that was really great. I know they had a few more drop that we just were so busy we didn't get around to seeing them. But
And some coming up.
yep,
Yep.
I do want to talk about the Hellraiser one, which dropped last year. That would be great. And then yeah, they have a lot of great ones coming up. But this looks great. This is definitely a deep dive on Chucky, the franchise, the people behind it, everything. It just looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. I really enjoyed the trailer.
And yeah, so you checked out the trailer because for me, this is where we talk about Screambox doing these just phenomenal documentaries. Where it's like sometimes when you look at these documentaries, they're never able to get everybody, so maybe there's a big piece of the puzzle missing. But looking at the trailer that Screambox showed us here, it seems like they have that complete history here where they're really gonna deep dive into this. All the usual suspects showed up just in the trailer, so that got me extremely excited. And and I don't know if this is just me paying more attention to things nowadays, but it seemed like um Chucky was almost forgotten about maybe a couple of years ago, where it was like, he's around, but not a lot of people are talking about him. And then, I don't know if it was a TV show that got everyone talking, or maybe the reboot that didn't go so hot, but like, all those things really got Chucky going. And it really seems like now he's getting his due as like this character that's been so consistent. Films being released every few years in the same tone and kind of intertwining a lot of the lore instead of restarting a lot of retconning things as we're used to in the horror spectrum here. But it's like it really feels like he's getting his due, where we had the release of the book about Chucky's complete history. Now we're getting getting his own documentary, which is surprising that there isn't that much out there in terms of documentary stuff for Chucky. When he's been such a big part since the late '80s, and been very consistent. So I'm really intrigued to see what they're going to do here. As we did the Child's Play 2 podcast, I cannot get enough of learning my history on Child's Play 2 and Charles Lee Ray. So I'm really intrigued to see what they're going to bring here, and uncover just a little bit more information of our little redheaded buddy.
Oh, absolutely. And me, I still have a lot in the series to check out. I've seen the important ones from what you said, but I still have to see everything from 3 on before the TV show.
Yeah,
So other than the remake, which is far superior in my opinion to anything else this franchise
of
has.
course.
But
Yeah, of
yeah,
course.
no, it's exciting. I've definitely become a much bigger Chucky fan over this last year. I mean, the TV show has a lot to do that, but you brought Child's Play 2 into my life finally. That's one of those things where it's like, again, I enjoyed the first film, but just having that kind of resurgence of me going back and watching 1 and then 2 with a little bit more of a mature eye to it, because like I said, I saw it years ago. I was still in high school when I first watched it, the first one, and it was just like I'd only seen the remake, so I didn't have the best introduction to Chucky, but even this excites me. So, because it's like I'm excited to get more into it. And I know the Halloweenies have been talking about Chucky
Yeah.
uh, this year. That's what their big thing is. They're even going to cover the series, which is exciting. But I've listened to the Child's Play 1 episode. I got to get on Child's Play 2. But even that, just hearing all the stuff behind it with like directors like Tom Holland and stuff, it's so wonderful. And I'm really looking forward to this. It's so nice to see Fiona and Brad Dourif in the trailer sitting next to each other,
Great.
because like, goddamn, like I know we talked about it on season 2, but like she really does a good job playing a younger version of her father.
She really
Like
does.
it is so surreal. But I mean, like they're a wonderful pair. Like I love what the series is doing. Yeah, I mean, and my son, he's obsessed with Chucky, so it's one of those things where it's like I live in a world of Chucky now, and this is just another thing to add to the pile. And I do want to check out the Reign of Chucky, which was
Yes.
the recent tell-all book from the guys who did Taking Shape, which you bought a copy of that, didn't you?
Yeah, it's sitting back there on my shelf. It's something I still got to crack open, along with a handful of other things back there. But it's something I'm excited to really deep dive into, because there's so much here, and it's like just going from, all these horror properties have such an intriguing story to tell. But Chucky, going from what its original iteration was with that original screenplay, not even being called Chucky, and then now we have this polished, finished product in a sense that's brought to us once a year for 2 months or so. It's really fun, especially with all the lore that's attached to it and how they've made everything work here. So I'm intrigued to see Chucky get his own documentary here in long form. Whatever the runtime is not going to be enough here. So, but I'm down for it. I can't wait. This was lit up my eyes when I saw this article out there.
I completely agree. But alrighty, why don't we move on to our final story of the day? And honestly, probably the biggest story of the week, at least for us in our camp. Yeah,
Mhm.
we got some unfortunate news, but some interesting news. That there was an exclusive from, and we're not going to be using Bloody Disgusting for once. We are giving props to the people who actually broke the story, but a little website called The Daily Dead got an exclusive report that the Tremors reboot from Dave Made a Maze director Bill Watterson has been canceled, which is horribly unfortunate. Um, you know, we're big Tremors fans here. And when this
Absolutely.
kind of popped up at first, I was just kind of like a little bit like skeptical just because I wasn't familiar with the Daily Dead or anything like that. But then I read the article and it sounded like there was some legitimacy to it. And then within, an hour, a couple other very reputable sites started picking up the story. And I was just like, okay, so this is some real stuff here. And yeah, they go on to kind of detail a little bit of kind of what the project was, but only in a broad sense because Bill Watterson is unfortunately he did sign an NDA, which is totally standard when it comes to these kind of projects and everything. So he couldn't speak too deeply into it, but they do have a nice conversation, and it's really interesting to kind of see what, in a sense, we were kind of almost getting. Again, it's very broad terms. It's very much just like surface level stuff. But again, you can just read that the guy has passion for this series. And yeah, I was definitely bummed to hear this, and a little concerned for what Universal and team are going to be doing with this franchise going forward.
Yeah, I don't think this was really talked about too much. This kind of caught me off guard when it was announced in terms of a reboot to Tremors, and we had just covered Tremors a little bit ago on the Sunday Scaries with the whole Kevin Bacon thing and saying that he's just waiting for a call. Um, so this one caught me off guard for a little bit, but this is something where we've talked about it. We did Tremors 2 on the podcast, and then we Tremors always comes up in anything that we're talking about, where it's like there is a rich history here. I think maybe in later films I haven't really seen too much from. I just really lost interest when they started going heavy in CGI. It's always that same old critique, but um I think there is still a lot here, especially those first couple of films. I think there is a lot of great lore, a lot of things to expand upon, especially if you wanted to go straight sci-fi slash horror with a little bit of elements of comedy. I think maybe sometimes they leaned a little bit into the comedy, which kind of lost some of the steam there. But I'm intrigued to see. I don't know what the future holds here. I don't know. Like, I want my Tremors restored back to what I love and what I feel it should be. But who knows exactly where this is going to go and what the plans are here. It's um, one of those things where I'd love to say the more Tremors content, the better. But the last few films for me haven't really piqued my interest. And again, I've watched the Cliff Notes version of a lot of those films, so it's something that the Tremors train has diminished a little bit just because I feel like it hasn't hit over the last couple of years. But I hope they get this one back on track and get us something interesting out there.
I agree. I kept up with them, and honestly, like I enjoyed the addition of Jamie Kennedy when
Yeah.
he first got put in there. But then it's so unfortunate to hear, how the studio was treating him. And then really, what's kind of flipped me over the last year is our contact with, oh, sorry about that, with the folks over at Tremors Saga and their representative Levi, who, I've watched a few of their videos. They have a big tell-all video about kind of the breakdown with Stampede Entertainment and Universal. And it's just unfortunate. It's really, you could tell these people at Stampede had a huge passion for this project, but ultimately the rights were held by Universal. So their hands are tied. They really can't do anything about it. Because even when they posted that they were excited about this, they said that he would have been a great choice for the director and everything. They love the approach that he wanted to take with doing, going back to practical effects and everything like that, stepping away from the CGI if necessary. And, it just sucks to see that Universal is kind of, it's an established property for them. Even though it is direct to video at this point in their wheelhouse, it's one of those things where it's like it still makes money. People still talk about the Tremors series. I mean, every time we post a video about Tremors, it gets a good amount of views and people seem to like it. So it's one of those things where it's a series out there that people are on board for. And I think that's why Universal refuses to let it go and
Yeah.
refuses to put it in the hands. But at the same time, they're not doing anything with the property. They're not doing anything meaningful, I should say. And this is just another sign. I mean, they canceled this where it seems like they were really going to take a stab at rebooting it and trying to bring it back to maybe the prestige kind of level that it was with those first two films. But I mean, that's just the way the business goes, I guess. And Tremors goes back into its hole for God knows how long. Um,
Which is
I
such a
hope. Oh no, go ahead.
which is such a shame because it's
Mhm.
like one of those. We did this podcast. I have an absolute love for the remake of the Blob. And it's just like one of Tremors falls in line with me with that, where it's like,
Mhm.
yeah, these fun creature features that are kind of offbeat and weird. And then Tremors just had such a strong start, especially for that first film, where it's like there's a lot of legitimacy in that movie, And then the second one, I think, was an adequate kind of pivot as to where we go in terms of making this fun and making bringing that new threat out. In like looking at this film or looking at like potentially rebooting anything, it's like it doesn't have to be as big as some of those later films became with, the CGI and, the spectacles that they had shown on screen, where it's like that first film was just bare basics. It's like we're doing a practical graboid and we're only seeing him so much. It's like you can build that tension perfectly and not really dive too deep into, we need an oversized graboid coming up, chasing someone on an island or anything like that. It's like we can just do some of the bare basics here. Give us Kevin Bacon back. Come on. I mean, how many times we got to say it? But yeah, I think there's a lot you can do still here, and just kind of stripping everything away and bringing back what originally brought us that love for the Tremors franchise.
I agree, and it's again, this is sad news to hear. But I mean, at the end of the day, uh, it seems like at least for a minute, Universal had their right head on the shoulders of putting somebody in charge who seemed like they knew what they were going to do with this property and seemed like they had a passion for it. Instead of just releasing another direct to video, installment. But yeah, I can't say much right now, but we are definitely going to be following up on this story pretty soon. Hint, hint. So I don't want to say anything until we're, officially in the pocket, as I like to say. But yeah, this isn't going to be the last time we discuss Bill Watterson or this Tremors reboot. So keep your eyes out for that. But yeah, other than that, I guess that about wraps us up for the news here, folks. So that's Sunday Scaries. Another great week. I mean, like we had a lot of really interesting stories, I think, and a lot of fun stuff. Definitely want my Cocaine Bear Funko Pops and my Ghost Face popcorn buckets. And yeah, more Yorgos, more Chucky, and yeah, I guess we'll see about Hellraiser. But or sorry, Hellboy, not Hellraiser. But yeah, another fun week in the bag. What do you say, Luke?
Oh yeah, a lot of great stuff on the horizon here. A great time to be a horror fan, as always, I would say. But looking at some of the stuff, I mean, like I think Tremors falls right in line with a lot of the fun stuff that we've been seeing. The Megan, Cocaine Bear. I think there is a big market for Tremors to be brought back, and kind of there's an audience that's going to be hungry for it, even a new audience. So but looking at everything here, I mean, we have such a huge spectrum. And I think that's, again, we talk about the perfection of horror, where Yorgos Lanthimos with the favorites and, how highly respected he is. And then, hey, maybe Hellboy's coming back. And, hey, Tremors is still in the conversation. And, hey, let's take a look at our favorite killer doll. So, I mean, a lot of great stuff going on. It's a great time to be a horror fan and another fun week in the horror community.
Absolutely. So definitely show some love over Bloody Disgusting. They always supply our stories, and definitely go over and follow the Daily Dead for hopefully more interesting scoops like they just dropped with the Tremors stuff this week. I'll definitely be keeping an eye on them from here on out. But yeah, other than that, guys, we got a lot of great content on the channel. Of course, our review for Cocaine Bear is up and out. You can hear what we thought of that wonderful film. Definitely flies on the side of weird creature features like we were discussing. But yeah, we also have a lot of great stuff on the horizon. Like we said, we probably have a review for Children of the Corn. We're going to double check that. But that'll be coming out. And then also Scream right up on the horizon with a lot of interesting videos coming right around the corner. It's going to be a busy couple weeks for us, but that's why we do it. We do it here for you guys, and we hope you enjoy it. If this is your first time finding us, definitely hit that subscribe button. We're on our way to 1,000 subscribers and making a very good traction. Hopefully, we'll get there before our year mark. That'd be quite a treat. But anyway, guys, that's going to wrap us up here. So until next time, I'm Dylan Newell.
And I'm Luke Janesco.
And remember, stay scared.